5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, and this is Crystal Holman with Diagnosis Autism. I am the Executive Director of Autism Chapter Eastern Shore. We are always here to give you the facts, information, and education to help you help your children. I am very pleased to announce two guests that I have on the show today. One is Heather Kokenauer, that is the Director of Special Education for Behavioral Services, and you're here with the Annapolis Early Intervention Services. And then I also have the Executive Director of Annapolis Early Intervention Services, and this is Sue Sullivan. Thank you so much for being on the show.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And the first question that I know everyone's got on their mind is, what is Annapolis Early Intervention Services?
It's a for-profit agency that works with children from birth to age 8. We provide services for children also on a case-by-case basis that are older than that age range as well. We also provide services for social skills, behavioral services, positive behavior supports, community-based instruction, education, consulting, assessments, and we help families navigate the IEP process, give advocacy when needed, and also how to find funding for services when looking at DDA, because it can be somewhat overwhelming looking at the website and knowing where to go, who to talk to, and how to get started.
And I can tell you right now, you're in desperate need for this area. This is a service that not only we need you every day of the week, but all year round and years to come. The number is just overwhelming on how many children are being diagnosed just in, our area alone. And through your services, what do you do when a family contacts you and tells you, I think my child has autism, or do they absolutely have to have a diagnosis before they contact you, or can they just call you and say, we have an issue with behavior? What do you do from that point?
As soon as a family contacts us, we start asking them questions. One, they don't have to have a diagnosis specifically related to autism. It could be just a question about, we think something's different, and we try to get them thinking about ways that they can begin to look at what makes their child different and refer them to places where they can get information that they need. If they've already figured out what's going on and they want supportive services, to move into a direction for remediation of symptoms, or to even begin on how to case manage or get what's going on in their family in response to what's going on in their child. We also refer for services for that, as well as refer out for things beyond what might be our area. We also help families begin to look at what are small measurable things they can start to do with their child, as far as if it's a behavioral issue, communication, setting up boundaries to between family members. It really depends on what that primary need is for that family and what makes the most sense for that child in that moment, especially if the family's in crisis, because we have to start with the family, make sure they're supported and in a good place before you can move on. If they're in crisis, then it doesn't matter what you're going to do, because the kid's going to be put to the side to a certain extent.
And I do remember the first time that I called you, and we were in my world at definite crisis level, and we needed your services so fast. I didn't even know how to get it started, begin it. But the thing that I have learned through the services that you have is, and I have to tell the public, whatever you knew about parenting is thrown out the window. You have to re-educate yourself on how to be a parent for children with a disability. The way you taught me to be with my son made my son a better person. It made me a better mother, and it has helped my son achieve such amazing things, just because of the way you came in and showed me how to teach my child. An amazing service. So I from my heart, you can't even imagine how grateful I am for the services that you do have. And then, speaking of the rest of the services, when a family first calls you, what do you do from there? How does the services start?
Basically, what we do is we talk with them, because we also are working on providing like scholarship and matching grant funds for fees for service. And I'm going to let Sue talk about that a little bit about what we're developing.
Yeah, so when we first meet a family, the first thing that we really want to do is establish the relationship and the rapport and the trust with the family, and that's key. And then to find out what their needs are, and if funding is of concern, what we're looking at is seeking various private foundations and possible funding through private foundations. And also a sliding scale. So we're always looking at the financial situation of each family. For example, right now we are working with a family pro bono, and as they get up and running on their feet, we will reassess. So we're offering a lot of different options for funding right now. And those options we expect to continue to grow with our connections and our networking with other foundations.
Okay. And what would you say as far as, like I said, is it if it's just autism, or is it many different?
It's many
diagnosis?
many different types of diagnosis. We both come with varied backgrounds of expertise and skill sets, and we want to offer it to any family that feels like there's something that's not quite right. Like, we both have experience working with children who are on the spectrum, as well as learning disabilities, as well as just pure behavioral issues, communication issues. So it's wide range.
Right. And so the person's called and they've got the diagnosis or semi-diagnosis, something's not right, and then you come into the home and you've figured out a personal plan for that child,
Right.
Because it's individualized, right?
Yes.
Okay. And each individual plan that you have for each of the children, then since you're in across the bridge, everyone's going to want to know
What happens?
what happens. How does this work?
So, a couple of different options. You can either, depending on how the plan's developed, because the plan may be specific to just potty training, it may be something that maybe what a family may contact us for, maybe something we train the family to do, or if the family has supportive, extended family or therapeutic aides that come in, we may provide training to the staff that come into the home, or directly to the family, or extended family to carry through with the specialized plan of care depending on the needs of the child, the family. Or if it's more comprehensive, addressing behavioral concerns or language development, we may actually provide, some one-on-one time with the child ourselves, as well as training the additional staff that come into the home.
And I know that when you, again, I have to use Hayden as an example, when you came out the first time and were working on, I don't know, just trying to get him to understand, take commands, and here this little child had his way completely for 3 years, and we had to get him to now understand, I want you to sit down, or I want you to sit at the table to eat, or I want you to touch this or do this, and different things in the beginning just to get him going. There was a lot of resistance on Hayden's part. I mean, he was very bullheaded. He's a lot like Mommy, and he's very bullheaded, and he was not gonna give in instantly. So that first little bit of training to just even get him to sit on a chair or put a block in a bucket, something so easy.
Right.
He did not want to let go of that control.
No.
And it was quite the battle. But after that battle, it got better and better and better. And what may have been in the beginning hours of screaming and him tantrum, and now it's to the point at this point for Hayden that if, let's say, we're out someplace and he acts up just a little bit, I'll say, do I need to text Heather? And he'll say, no, Heather, Hayden will be good right now. And it's amazing. So you're like the voice of God in our house. It's a very nice thing.
And Crystal, that speaks to the relationship that Heather has worked towards developing with you, and the trust and the rapport. Had that not been in place, you may have said, after an hour of tantruming, can't do this.
Yeah.
But because of that trust and rapport that you developed, it allowed you to push through some sounds very tough, difficult moments.
And that's just it. As a parent with a child with autism, I could not allow myself to be mommy and cuddle and cater to his needs. I could do that after training hours, but not during training hours. During training hours, all I could say in my head was, I want my son to be independent, self-sufficient, and self-reliant. What do I, as his mother, need to do to make him the best little adult person he can be? And I know he was only 3, but he's in training to be the independent, self-sufficient man that I want him to be. So I'm looking at long term, not just he's crying for 2 hours and he's having a fit, and recognizing it's just a fit. He will get through this. And when he realizes, I used to call it the name of the game. The name of the game was drop the bucket, the block in the bucket, or, touch an alphabet or something, whatever the game was for the day. As soon as he realized that I wasn't going to cave and give him his way, he always played the game. And now I know at 10 years old, he knows that when Heather comes, it's going to make him a better person. I know he knows this, and he loves Heather. She's the voice of God for him, but he loves her, and he knows, well, when Heather comes, that means I can do more, and I've learned more, and I'm going to achieve more. And the achievements for Hayden, even the time that we took him to the store for the first time. My son was severely autistic. For those of you that don't know my story, he was so severe that at 2.5 years old, they wanted him in an institution. They said he'd never speak, he'd never be a human being, he'd never be able to go in public anywhere. But through the services that I was able to implement immediately, the first time we took him to a store, I think I was more stressed out because Heather was like, nope, he can do this. And that's the best part. You have a job that you see the good and the potential in every child, and you bring it out. And that's amazing. It's overwhelming to me that you have a job that can make every child succeed greatness.
And that's the exciting part, is that each child can. And it's just looking into what each child has that are strengths and building on them. Because one of the first things that really intrigued me about your son is how strong he was with his resistance to things. And it was just tapping into that and channeling it into a direction that was going to bring him to a place where he'd probably be more happy than he was currently. And he did. He rose to the occasion. And he also had a great support system. He had a great family that rose to the occasion too, and expanded and worked, and we worked as a team, and that's what brought him, besides the hard work he did, that you did as well.
Well, and it wasn't just, as far as like just me, but it is definitely, it has a lot to do with trying to get, as the comment is, getting everyone on the same page.
Yes, absolutely.
Not everyone was ready to do what we needed to do, and I'm jumping in going, let's just do it.
Right.
But not everyone was at the same level of okay, well, how much change is that going to be for me? Change in general is very hard for everyone. It really is. And most people love the routines. They get into a rut and they love to stay there, but I'm a jump in the water. I don't know if there's a brick or a log in there that I'm going to kill myself on, but I jump in. I just jump in, and you either sink or swim, and I do what I can to try to swim.
And knowing that you have good support to do that, and you have accessed many different levels of support, and having the people who will liaise with you to bring that all together and to have the continuity of services across providers, across settings, going out into the community is so important and key for children with disabilities to generalize their skills from home into the community with different settings and with different people and different providers. And that's what we aim to do with our services. We call them wraparound services for that very reason. We wrap around the family, around the child, and build from their strengths moving from the center of their home outward into the community as they build their confidence, as Hayden did. When he was beginning to feel that confidence that he could achieve or complete a task that he wasn't able to do before, he built that confidence, and that allowed him to move beyond home out into the community with a lot of support. So that's fantastic.
And the most amazing part of it, as far as Hayden's progress is concerned, is that not only is he planning, oh, I want to, what is my schedule or what am I going to do for the day, but he's telling me what age he's going to date, when he's going to get married, how many children he wants to have. He wants all little girls. He's like,
and one will be named Heather.
Yes, I know. Right. That's the best part of it. And she's supposed to have blonde hair and blue eyes, by the way. So he has even goals for the future, which is outstanding. Everyone that understands autism usually knows it's extremely hard to get the child to plan for the future or understand, is there a future? And not only does he know, he's telling me what he's going to do, which
he has a life plan.
He does. And I've never given him those cues, so he's done that all by himself. The other question I have for you is that through the services, you mentioned something about IEP. How does that work?
What we do is families often, either if they're starting out on the IEP, which is the individualized education plan, through their public schools, where it's a process where you can, if you get a diagnosis or qualify for special services like speech, OT, or education services through the school, oftentimes it's scary. Like, what happens? What do I do? Who can help me understand the steps it takes to either develop one or be with me when I'm at these meetings, so I understand what I'm signing or participating in. And one of the things we both can do, because we both have a special ed background and are certified special ed teachers, is to help families with that and understanding, what are your rights, what are the next steps, what can we do to support you during the process, as well as help take this document once it's formalized and signed and work on it after the school day ends, because oftentimes there's a big gap in services between when the school day ends and how do you implement this in your home.
Right. And again, that is part of getting the school and the home piece at the same level, because then it does make it easier for school, and it does make it easier for the teachers, and it makes it easier for the county
right.
and the other kids in the classroom. The services that you provide are just probably the most important thing that any child could have if they have Asperger's or ADHD or any kind of learning disability, autism, whatever the diagnosis is or whatever the issue may be.
Right.
This isn't just specialized to just autism. And that's the part that when you have a child and that child can't be in the classroom or is having issues, behavior issues, whatever the situation is, where you are struggling and the child is struggling, there is help, and there are people that you can contact. Yes, they're over the bridge, but they do come to Wacomico County. Obviously, they're in the studio today. So you guys travel here, and that's the part that for you to come over the bridge and come to the homes and do an evaluation, talk with the parents. When you do that first assessment, is that something that is at a cost, or how do you work that first assessment in?
Initial assessments or sitting down and talking with families is always free. We'll sit down and have coffee in your home, or if it's more comfortable, we can talk about different locations. We can do video conferencing. We've done meet families on the phone and do it if it's easier. We've met Starbucks. We've been in a lot of different environments to make it easier for families. And then it's usually scheduled for about 2 hours or less, depending on the needs of the family. And we come out to ask questions, and it's just like sitting down and having coffee. And we do informally tell you what we see and what we would like to offer based on what we're seeing. Okay. And then we may do a records review, which means we look at if you have a diagnostic report that demonstrates the diagnosis, if you have supporting documents from like an occupational therapist, a speech language pathologist or anyone else that your child may see, we may ask if we can have copies if you feel like that's information you want to share with us. So we can get the whole picture, not just what happens in the home, but also in other settings as well.
And I have to say, I have tried to give a brief many times on what you do.
Okay.
And I have actually explained it to people as she's like Super Nanny, only better because it's long term and it helps everything. I mean, every piece of it. Getting the family on the same page, getting the family to understand it. And when I say family, I'm talking not just me or me, my husband, my mother, me, my husband, my mother, and my daughter. And then whatever staff I have put in place through Dove Point, it's putting everybody doing the exact same thing and treating Hayden the same way so that his achievements will keep rising.
Right.
And so I try to give them a brief as fast as I can. It's like the Super Nanny, only she's much better because it's every single behavior, and it's just helping the child achieve greatness. I mean, I can't explain it any other way. But like I said, the story with Hayden, where we were a couple of years back and where we are now, it's just like a different child. It's like I have stepped out of the deep valley that was overpowering me, and we're into the light, and it's so joyful and wonderful to be with him. And I mean, the fact that he can go anywhere and do anything, he can sit in a restaurant, he can order his own food, and just phenomenal. I mean, we can go to let's see, one of the places, and one thing I like is sushi, and so we go and we'll go to the little Chinese place, and he'll say, Hayden wants chicken and fries or whatever he's going to order for the day, and he says, and Mommy would like sushi today, and he'll order the sushi. It's so funny. It's so funny. So I mean, his achievement has been overwhelming to me, and again, it's from your services that you provide. The other question I have for you is that so you've got a plan, you're going to the families, you've done the assessment, you're going to the families, you're doing the plan. How do, like, is there a thing where they say, it's only 3 months, or it's only 6 months, or you can achieve this in this many weeks, or whatever? How do you explain the time limit to the families?
Sure. Basically depends again on what families want to work on. So like if you want to work on potty training, depending on the kid, depending on circumstances, that could be short term, could be long term. Depends on the issues involved with working on those skills. If you're wanting to work on learning how to go out in the community, that could be a short-term goal. Depends again on what's important and measurable to the family and what they want to work on, because it could be a very short-term thing where you're there for a few months and you're out. Because one of the things that's different about this field, even though there's a lot of practitioners in the field, we are actively working ourselves out of a job. We don't want to be where you're dependent on us forever. We want you to be able to do this by yourself. So what really drives this process is what's important to you as a family. Because my norms and what I value is important may be completely different than what you are. I can give you resources, support, strategies out the wazoo, but unless they're what are important to you, it's not going to move forward. So it could be as short as a couple of months, or it could be long term for a couple of years or longer, depending again on what you want to work on and where the child is and what issues are involved.
Okay.
I like to give an example of, say, a family, if we were to go in and do an initial assessment and they identify 3 areas, 3 goals that they want to achieve. One could be, Dad could identify, I just want to be able to understand what my son or daughter is saying if their child is nonverbal. And I want, when Grandma comes to visit, I want to be able to help Grandma understand the behavioral challenges, because every time Grandma comes over the house, the behaviors may spike. And then Mom might just say, I want some time to myself to recharge. I may not be able to do anything. I want an hour to recharge every now and again. So if we've identified 3 areas such as those, we might say, okay, next time we come in, we will work together with Dad, Grandma on both the communication, the behavioral challenges, and at the same time we might bring in a massage therapist and have Mom go out or in another room in the home and have an hour massage. We are networking. What's exciting about this is we're networking with individuals and agencies in the community to help provide those services, such as a massage that might be reduced in fee or even perhaps pro bono.
Right.
And it will be at a time where we're already working one-on-one with a child, so it's our regularly scheduled time.
Wow.
Now we're going to make use of our time to bring in mom, dad, grandma into the mix and make it a very holistic, family-driven service that is holistic.
And it's so funny that you mentioned that. Of course, everyone that knows me knows I have a Facebook, and the community knows I have a Facebook. And one of the moms that I am friends with had made a comment about her children, and they all have autism. And she says, "Dear God, take me away and let me have a massage today." And when I read that, I said, "Oh, I'm right there with you, baby."
Yes.
And but it is overwhelming. It really is. There's many that don't understand why is this child having the meltdowns and the ballistic behavior, and they don't understand the diagnosis of autism. They don't understand it's a neurological disorder, or they don't understand that the child may not be able to speak. So when you are in public and there's meltdown after meltdown after meltdown, and you're trying to pick this child up and crate it to the car, and he's fighting you and struggling, you're exhausted. You're beyond exhausted. You're lucky you know your own name by the time you can either figure out how to get home. But when you get home and all this is going on, all you can think about is, how am I going to get through another day? And I know for even myself, there were days that I'm like, the very first show, I remember telling people, I'm washing my face, bawling my eyes, going, today's gonna be a good day, something great's gonna happen today. And I would make the family, I couldn't take any more bad news, so I made the family keep a journal of, I don't care if we've got a button left on our outfit from the day, it is a good day, doggone it, or no food has been thrown at us, it is a good day, we have no stains today.
That is a good day.
I said, we still have our hair left in our head, it's a good day. So we looked at only the good, because it is such a battle, and that's what we're here for. Diagnosis Autism is here to help you as the parent get the information, the education, and the facts, and the community for you to understand. If that mother is screaming her lungs out and trying to get the child in the car, she's not mugging the child, she's not stealing the child, she's just trying to get it home and get it safe. So please have mercy in your heart. It's an overwhelming task. I know through the battles of my own, it was I had people say, oh, he needs to be in a cage. How dare you? You're a horrible mother. You're the worst mom in the world to let him act like that. And my daughter was only 8 years old at this time, and one of the men in a parking lot at a store I'd gone to, I'm trying to put him in the car seat. He's beating me, just pounding me. He's only 3 years old, just beating me to a pulp while I'm trying to lock him into the car seat. And the man yells out and says, you need to put a rope around his neck and drag him till he's dead. And I was shaking. I'm shaking over this information that he's screaming out at me, and I'm shaking so hard. And I said, since you're so concerned with my life, but you're not willing to help me, please look up autism. Please understand the diagnosis and the disability, because I couldn't make my son get in that car seat, no matter what that. And I pray the man sees the show. Maybe he'll be educated. But through your services, there's not even an issue. There's not even an issue. There's no issue with getting in the car. There was no issue by the time he was, 3.5 to 4 years old. Never an issue again. He understood what was going on between everything that you came up with between a picture schedule and, setting this up and setting this up. Just every idea you had worked wonderfully for Hayden. So the services, again, our life is so different. And if I talk about that part, I know I'll cry, but so grateful.
Well,
so
thank
grateful
you
for what
Thank
you do and the support that you give the parents. And you just don't understand how valuable
until you have them come in your home and you start seeing everything getting better and better and better and get to a level of life that is a miracle. So through your services, my son absolutely will be a independent, self-sufficient, self-reliant little man.
And full of personality.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's got quite a sense of humor now. But if when the parents call, what number will they call?
We have 2 numbers. We have one, which is, they're both of our cell phones, which is 443-758-4150, and Sue's number.
443-699-0619.
Okay. And is there certain hours, or can they call
Anytime.
anytime they get a break? Oh, that's good.
They do, yep.
I know that we have the diagnosis autism is on YouTube now too. So I've had moms call me the next day and say, it was 2:00 in the morning, it was my first break, and I actually got to pay attention to the show. So I know that they can go on pac14.org, click onto the YouTube site and watch the show right there, and it has been wonderful for mothers that don't have the 8 to 5 hours.
Right.
You don't have an 8 to 5 life. So it gets overwhelming. But
We also have a Facebook page and a web page. So, and we'll make sure once the YouTube clip is up, we'll link it to both.
okay, great. That would be wonderful. And then the other thing I have to say is anything that comes up, or if you whatever else you would like the community to know, please feel free to either call me, tell me, come back and be on the show.
Sure.
Whatever we can do, because this service is valuable, and it's valuable to the parents, the families, the children, educators, the community. This is a service that definitely needs to be out there.
We would love to come back. Thanks for having us.
So grateful. And again, you're talking to Heather and Sue from Annapolis Early Intervention Services, and this is PAC14, Diagnosis Autism. I'm Crystal Holman, Executive Director of Autism Chapter Eastern Shore, and we're so happy to have PAC14 part of our sponsors. Thank you again, and we'll see you on the next show.
Would you like to see your community organization or nonprofit group featured on PAC14? To get started, contact us at 410-677-5014 or visit our website at www.pac14.org. PAC14 is a great way to connect with your community.